that through anti-competitive price controlling behavior. So in this case, I'd say we're less interested in the parts of the document that are his arguments, because obviously those will be painting Steam in a bad light. The one thing that is interesting is some emails that he's using as evidence. And when you look at those emails, they certainly suggest that Steam keys are only the start of the pricing concerns, and that at least at one point in the past, Valve were perfectly happy to pull games from sale if a developer sold them cheaper elsewhere at all, not Steam keys. Now, when you look at those emails, and they're on the screen now, I think what you basically see is just peak Valve being Valve, where it's maybe not that there's a super hard policy decision outside of what is sitting there in the actual agreement that developers agreed to, which of course has got the rules and regulations about the use of Steam keys. It does seem that it's just people at Valve, operating with their own understanding of Valve's rules and maybe some of the thinking that informs Valve's rules. And that means that yes, there's the Steam key argument, but then there's also the argument of, well, why would we have your game on our platform when you're basically undercutting us somewhere else? Get lost, right? And in a way, that's totally understandable. And what it actually reminds me of is the sorts of price wars and fights over shelf space and stuff like that actually goes on between, say, different brick and mortar, massive grocery stores like your Walmarts and your Tesco's, and them being able to flex their sheer scale and buying power to kind of muscle people out of markets and to, play a little bit dirty. So that definitely is evidence that absolutely should be considered as something that is not really in Valve's favor if they are going to be falling back on just that it's Steam keys as a part of their defense. That being said, these are only a handful of documents, right? And they are being compiled by somebody who is very much, trying to make the case to the judge that what Valve are doing is wrong, or at least has been wrong in the past. And that means there's going to be a degree of cherry picking here. There could be other evidence that maybe contradicts this, that has just been cherry picked and not left in. Anyway, this is the sort of thing that you and me basically are allowed to look at when this sort of thing happens with the trial. But it's not like you just get to see all of the documents in an unredacted state. Of course, Valve will want a whole bunch of maybe proprietary, sort of secret info that is important to them. They'll want to redact some of that, but what's happened here is messy redaction. Now, these documents were spotted by Pavel, who is actually the creator of SteamDB, and this shows a 2019 to 2021 gross margins and commissions chart, as well as an 18-year-long employee count / distribution thing, as well as the costs of those employees. Now, in both cases, the documents are presented without any context of how they relate to the wider case, so we're not really going to be reproducing them directly here. They've they've went out into the wild, but then they've been pulled since reporting has started. So it's a bit of a funky case, but absolutely what we can do is talk through what we have seen. The first thing is commission revenue. That very much appears to be how much money Valve is making just through their Steam commission, which of course, to remind you, is 30% by default. It can though go down to 20% if you get, I think for the case of 20%, it's over 50 million in revenue, right? So that's what they're getting off Steam from other devs. That's not including their own hardware or their own game sales. In 2021, their commission revenues surpassed $2 billion. 10